Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1158.
That just because you can't do something today doesn't mean that you won't do it tomorrow.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest, John Mills. Hey, John, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I am ready to go.
All right. John Mills is a longtime SCCA race car driver and a championship GT3 racer who has held lap records at the Mid-Ohio Sportscar course and Grattan Raceway. He is a seasoned fabricator, which allows John to design and build his own race cars, specializing in custom roll cages, which he also builds for other racers. In 2008, John suffered a traumatic brain injury that had immeasurable effects on his life. After a long rehabilitation, he returned to racing with a focus on helping others. He promotes brain injury awareness, and he's part of the Racing Safety United, or RSU, a new driver safety advocacy group with representatives from many areas in motorsports. So, John, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment, share a little bit more about your career, your racing, and a very obvious passion for automobiles?
Yes, I definitely have a passion. My passion is in road racing. My father took me to Mid-Ohio when I was very young, and I grew up there. That's my home track. He's always, I've always been surrounded by race cars. My brother started racing, then I started racing. Now, then I had my accident, and now I'm still racing, but I've kind of readjusted, trying to get into motivating and inspiring brain injury survivors.
Absolutely. Well, I'm really thrilled and honored to have you here today, and I think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic. I'm all about inspiring other people by talking to inspirational people, which you are one of them, so I'm excited to share your story. But first, as we continue on your journey, I always like to ask my guests for a success quote or a mantra. This is some kind of saying that's had some value in your life. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So, John, take the wheel.
I guess, one of the things that helped me the most through my recovery from a traumatic brain injury was that just because you can't do something today doesn't mean that you won't do it tomorrow. I've used that because I fall down many, many times, but then I get back up. Yeah.
You've taken what was a very serious injury, recovered mostly from it, and gone back into racing. But the fact that you're using that, and I think that quote is fantastic, to motivate people, what pushed you in that direction about going through this very serious issue in life that said to you, I need to go out and share this with others and help others?
Well, I guess, and I've never been one that considered myself motivational at all, but I knew after my accident, I knew in my heart there's nothing that was going to stop me from getting back to racing. I knew it. And I had a friend tell me that you really need to try to share that confidence. And once I would go to brain injury support group meetings, and just talking to them, I realized that what they really need is confidence. I was very lucky in my brain injury. Every brain injury is different. And most of them are not as lucky as I am. But, I wanted to be able to share that confidence. And, now that I'm back and doing well driving a race car, I want to share that confidence with them. I want to show them, hey, just because you can't do this now doesn't mean you can't do it tomorrow.
Absolutely. There's always an opportunity. I think it's fantastic. Well, I would like to go back and talk a little bit about a story that instigated that personal passion for cars. I mean, going to that racetrack when you were a little kid obviously had a huge influence on you. Is there a pivotal moment in your life when you knew that you were going to be a car guy, that you knew you wanted to be a racer?
I guess it's always been such a part of my life. Like I say, I grew up at Mid-Ohio, I can remember, his dad taking me down there, and I was watching Freddie Baker in his C Production XKE battling Logan Blackburn in the C Production 280Z. And I remember those with a passion, because I was a little guy, but Baker would come through in the Jag, and Logan Blackburn would come through in the Z with the tail end hanging out. And it's just like, that moved me, and I knew that's what I wanted to do.
No doubt. Yeah. Well, you're going back to some history there. Jaguar XKEs. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Back in the 60s, right?
Well, this was actually in the early 80s. The car was I think a late 60s XKE, but this was in the early 80s that these cars ran C Production.
I see.
And Baker won the national championship in that car.
Wow.
So it was a cool deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, let's take a look at the road you've been down and talk about a traumatic series of incidents. I guess we'll talk about your brain injury a little bit here, because I think it's important. I always ask all my guests for a big challenge or a big failure they faced in life. And obviously, this is a major part of your life, and it's really reconstructed your life as you've rehabilitated and come back from this. So maybe you kind of walk us through some of this and tell us how this experience helped you actually become even more of a person who helps other people because of it. I think that's the best part of the story, if there is a good part of the story.
You're right when you say my brain injury was the biggest event in my life. Most people think that is a negative. And it put me through 2 to 3 years of depression. I went through a lot of rough times financially, personally, but I was able to pull myself out of it. And just that feeling that you've pulled yourself out is huge. It began I was at Mid-Ohio, my home track, and I was in the second weekend with a brand new car I had just built. Rotary powered Miata GT3 car, and I spun that car. I had qualified third, and I dove in on the second place guy, who was Milton Grant. And I talked to him, and he said I just came by him way too fast in the braking zone, and I got the car loose, and I spun, and I got into the grass, and I impacted a concrete wall. At that time, Mid-Ohio had no tire barriers in front of their concrete. And I impacted that wall that was buried into the side of a hill. So that didn't move at all with the side of a tube-frame car. And a tube-frame car isn't designed, especially from the side, to bend or to collapse at all. And that transmitted all that force to the driver. And I bent my seat over and when you're strapped in, you don't think your body's going to move that far. Where my head hit, I didn't have padded on roll cage, but I hit my head and I was knocked unconscious. Actually, I wasn't breathing for a while because the weight of my helmet was holding my head down. And it was almost, people call it luck, but it was God. There's a corner worker that wasn't working, okay, was off duty, and she was right there. And she saw that my head was down, and she actually jumped the fence, got to my car, and held my head up until the safety crews arrived. And at that time, then I was able to start breathing again. From there, I went to a hospital in Mansfield. Then I was life flighted up to Toledo to a hospital, and then to another hospital. Spent about a month in the hospitals. I don't remember 8 days of my, the day of my accident or the 7 days after, and then months of rehab after that. Changed my entire life. I believe now I can look back and say that was the pivotal moment in my life. And there's where things can go up or they can go down. And I said, I'm going up. And I just made that decision and surrounded myself with people that were good to me and people that were good for me. And they helped pull me through.
You said something really important here, because when you go through a traumatic injury like that, and I've had many racers on this show, many who've been through some really serious accidents. In fact, one of my earliest guests on the show, David Bull, who's a publisher, who was hit on a motorcycle and became a quadriplegic and also had brain injury out of it. I mean, talk about having to come back from a catastrophic injury. To this day, he's still in a wheelchair and still, is challenged by all that. But the nugget you said here, there's a couple things. And one is having great people around you. And the other is finding a way to only move up from that situation. Now, you mentioned you went through a lot of depression for a while, which I can only imagine. So maybe you can help those people out there that might be in a place in life right now listening to the show where they're in a state of depression. How did you crawl out of that hole, that dark hole that is just a terrible place to be? So many people suffer from depression, and people that don't suffer from that don't get it. They go, well, just buck up. Come on. Just just smile, be better. You can be happy. I mean, how or what kind of advice could you offer somebody that might be, whether it's very minor or even a major situation of depression, to help them understand there is light on the other end, there is an up out of the hole?
Well, it was a long process. It's not going to happen quick. Okay. But it comes from controlling your thoughts and not allowing negative thoughts to come into your head.
And how do you do that?
I had a couple different things, because you can't just say, okay, I'm going to think positive today. Okay. Because that doesn't work a lot of times. I had actually found a paragraph at my brother's shop. He's a car guy too. And he had it on the side of a lift, and I took a picture of it. And is a quote by Charles Swindoll. I would read that quote. I would probably read it, I'd say 5 times a day. I'd read it. I had it printed out, and I had it in my toolbox. I had it at work on my computer. I had it on the mirror in my bedroom. Every time I just read it, and I kept reading it for months until all of a sudden I realized, this is the way I feel. That's true.
Yeah.
And I got it here. I can read it to you if you want.
Yes. I was hoping that you would. Yeah, very much so. Now, you mentioned, was it Charles Lundell?
Charles Swindoll. The longer I love, the more I realize the impact of attitude on my life. Attitude to me is more important than the facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, or a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it.
Yeah.
And that last line was the big thing. And it's and that's, since then I've gotten into, people call it the power of attraction and the power of love or whatever, but there is power there. Okay.
Yeah.
And you draw things to you by what you think. That's why visualizing, sitting on the grid before I go out for a race, I'll close my eyes. One of the grid girls always, thought I was stuck up because I'd always just sit in my car and close my eyes.
Close your eyes,
and then after my accident, I became a lot more talkative. She goes, I always thought you were stuck up. I said, no, I was just doing in my own little world, doing my thing. So.
Yeah. Well, wow. Thanks for sharing really powerful words with us. And I believe you are right. It's kind of the old saying that I've heard a lot here on Cars Yeah. Henry Ford quote, I think it was attributed to whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Exactly.
And it all has to do with attitude. Wow. Powerful words. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. Well, let's shift gears and And talk about a big aha moment that you had. I think you've probably had a few of these in your life. Here, tell us about one that's really created something new and maybe taken you down a new path.
Yeah, I guess as far as, and this has to do with my racing, but I started autocrossing at 16 years old in 1982, and then started road racing in 1989, and this was in 1992, and it was at Mid-Ohio again, and I was in a group of 4 different classes in a 62 car field at Mid-Ohio, which was insane. That's a lot of cars on Mid-Ohio. But during that race, I felt like my body core was part of the car, and my arms and legs were working separately and just doing their own thing. And my eyes were interpreting what was coming, and I just felt totally at one with the car. And in that race, I won that race of 62 cars overall, and I set a lap record. And it was at that time that it was like, this is something I have a talent here, and it's like, it just made me, it made me feel so good. When I was little, I grew up on dirt bikes, and, I'd just go out and I'd ride my bike as fast as I could over and over and over, and it gave me that type of feeling, just that pure joy.
John had a need for speed, as they say. So just built into your DNA. Oh, very cool story. I love it. Well, let's have a little bit of fun and talk about your first really special car, or maybe your first special race car, whichever one you'd like to discuss, and maybe share a memory you have about that vehicle.
Well, actually, I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because my first special car and my first race car were the same.
That's all right.
And because it was my car in high school, so it was a car that I remember dating in and all that kind of high school stuff. And then after high school, I built that into my first race car, and that was the car that I won that race at Mid-Ohio with 62 other cars and set a lap record. Wow. So that car, I can honestly say now, because I build my own race cars and everything, now I look at cars as tools, or race cars as tools. Street cars is, they're cool. I like them, but I don't get as attached to them like I used to.
Yeah. What kind of car was that again?
It was a 74 Opel Manta Rally. You can believe that.
Well, that's a different kind of car to have as a high school kid.
Yeah, and I had 2 different 74 rallies in high school, a white one and a green one, and I've had probably 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 or who knows how many since then. I was big on Opels for a while. I raced those for quite a few years before I started racing rotaries. So
yeah, that's a very different car. I mean, you just don't see those around. Cool little coupe car. I'm thinking of the same thing. Yeah, 2-door coupe, but it just, very, 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 very cool little car. Yeah. That's awesome. I like that. Yep. Well, how about seller's remorse? Is there a vehicle you've let go that you really wish you had back?
The one thing I kind of cringe at a little bit was my first rotary race car was the RX-3. Okay. And the class I ran in was GT3, which was a class that allowed 2 frames and a lot of modifications. And I got this car and kind of butchered it in a way, because I put a quick change rear end in it, different tranny. I switched it over to double A-arm front suspension. And then I sold it when I built my other car. But then after I sold it, I found out that was Ron Tambrine's old IMSA RS car.
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh.
And it's that made me cringe some, because I cut this car up, and it's like, that car is worth a ton as a vintage car, Yeah. And that's the one I kind of regret letting go, or not so much letting go, but it kind kind of butchering
chopping it up
making
a
it
little
a race
bit.
car. Exactly. So,
well, at least you didn't do it knowing that. It came after the fact.
No,
so we can't put too many penalty points against you for that lap.
Yep.
But
Yep.
wow, very cool. Now that's a neat car. That would have been cool to have. Well, I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about being a TBI advocate and survivor. TBI, of course, traumatic brain injury. And then also want to talk a little bit about this new RSU, the Racing Safety United. That is all about injury awareness. It's related a lot to racing, if you will, and that kind of thing. And I know that we had a couple days ago, Preston Calvert, who's a fellow racer, and he's involved in this group as well, the RSU group. So tell us a little bit about what you're working on these days and what has you excited and fired up.
A couple things. I've gotten, like I said, I've gotten back into racing, and there's a GT3 challenge this year presented by MPI. That's Max Pappas, and they're doing a series of like 5 or 6 different races. And the first one's actually beginning in November here at Road Atlanta. I bought another car just to do that one because my new car is not going to be done yet. So I'm going to go down there and race that. And what I've had a vision of tying my speaking to brain injury survivors and my racing, tying it together somehow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would love to do that in Trans Am or something eventually, but it's like, I can start doing this now at my level. But my idea is to go down there and get with a brain injury group, invite them out to the track, speak to them, let them know what's going on, and just let them experience the thrill of road racing.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, with is your vision of these people who they've had an injury and they're recuperating? They're in the process of recuperating, or they've already recuperated, or what's your vision of who these folks are?
When I go, like say, I still go to TBI support group meetings every once in a while, okay? And that's where you meet people that have had an injury for 6 months or 6 years or whatever,
Okay.
But they're there for a reason. They're there because they want to talk, they want to share. The other people are there because they want to help. So it brings a kind of a vast group of people.
Well, I think it's tremendous and very noble. And I think, and I've learned this through listening to well over 1,000 people here on Cars Yeah now, that we as human beings, when we are truly happy, is when we are helping others. And it's come through over and over and over. I always share that with people. I get invited to be a keynote speaker and a speaker at many events. And I always share that story that is the way you become fulfilled as a human being. And you may not think it's true, but it really is. And I think, John, you're a tremendous example of that. Unfortunately, you had to go through what you went through to get to that point, but I think it's great that you share your story and you're helping other folks out there. And I think there's a tremendous amount of, you're welcome, validity that comes to it because you have been through this. So people can't say, well, you don't really understand. And you can say, no, I get it. Dude, I've been there.
And that's where I can look into the eyes of a brain injury survivor and I connect to them. I see it in their eyes. I can feel, I can feel their pain. So, but
tremendous.
The RSU group, that's a new thing that I'm just gotten into that I'm real excited about. We're going to have our first meeting here in Indianapolis at the PRI show.
Nice.
In December. But that's a group of about 29, 30 people, I think, right now. Me and actually Jerry Nadeau I believe, are the only real survivors that are on that. And we kind of feel a little funny because it's like Preston Calvert, who's a great neurosurgeon and all these great, team builders and business people and racers and here we are survivors, but I think we will actually be able to bring a different information to them.
Absolutely.
I do believe that as survivors, we need to be in that group and be able to express things. So I'm excited about
I think you should be. Yeah. And I think it's tremendous. We'll put links to the Racing Safety United RSU group. Hopefully I'm going to have some more people that are on this, or part of this group, I should say, aside from John here in Calvert on the show. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for you to give back and also contribute and help a whole lot of people. So fantastic. Well, John, here's a very introspective question for you. If you woke up tomorrow morning and you were a car sitting in a garage or a race car, what would you be and why?
That's an interesting one. As much as I'd like to be a Ferrari or something like that, I'm not.
Wouldn't we all?
I would say I'm about 76 Datsun 280Z, and that may sound a little funny, but that's because I still look and I sound good. If I keep up, or I'm able to get some admiring glances from an older generation, and as long as I keep up on the latest technology and keep myself in good shape, I can still perform well.
There you go. Nice. Nicely said, John.
My idea.
Yeah, I like it. Nicely said. That's why I love that question. It brings out some very good answers. Well, John, up next is the last lap. But before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. What's the worst thing for your car's interior? No, it's not that milkshake the kid spilled in the back seat. It's the sun. Harmful UV rays cook your automobile's interior hour after hour when it's parked outside, even on a cloudy day. What's the solution? Covercraft sunscreens. They protect your dash, seats, and interior finishes from those damaging UV rays while keeping the interior temperature tolerable, even on the hottest summer days. No more painfully sizzling seats and steering wheels for you. They unfold quickly and easily install, stay where you put them, and are custom patterned for an exact fit. The foam core acts as a cooling insulator, and you can get yours in different colors and finishes. And they even fold up easily and store under your seat or on the floor. I've used Covercraft sunscreens for years, and they are a fast and easy solution that protect my beloved cars when they're not in the garage. Learn more and order yours at covercraft.com. Want to protect your entire vehicle? Get a car cover from Covercraft. They have those too. That's covercraft.com, and tell them Mark sent you. What's every automotive enthusiast's dream? To design and build that perfect garage. My friends at Metron Garage are a group of creative talents who've combined their passion for cars with their careers in architecture. Their service includes unique garage design and state-of-the-art fabrication. They will create the coolest custom garage for you and your vehicles. Metron Garage's system features fully engineered commercial-grade material and structural framing that's stronger than traditional construction. Their designs are pre-engineered to meet your building codes for fast, bolt-together construction. With over 25 years of experience, you'll see a 3D rendering to visualize your custom garage, and the final structure will fulfill all your storage needs. Contact Metron Garage today and begin realizing your dream garage. Go to metrongarage.com. That's metrongarage.com. Garage is built for discerning enthusiasts. Where it's not just a garage, it's where your dream garage comes true. Okay, John, we're back. We're entering the last lap. This is a place you've been many times. That white flag's out. Time to put your foot into it. And I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of the throttle answers. So here we go. What's the best automotive or racing advice you've ever received?
Fix one thing at a time and don't pick anything apart until you know why you're taking it apart.
Nicely said. Where were you when I was vintage racing? I should have put that up on the wall. How many things did I mess up? Oh my gosh. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes over the years?
Persistence. Never give up, fall down, get back up.
Yep. Tenacity. Of all the racers I've had on the show, every single one of them, hundreds of them, never give up. Those are the words. That's obviously the racer's creed. Now, do you have a resource that you think our other listeners would really enjoy?
Actually, and I just confirmed this again last weekend, my biggest resource as far as racing is older racers. And racers that have, when you're at the track, there's a million people that want to tell you how something's done or how it works or why you should do this or why you should do that.
Yeah.
But talk to the guy he may not be the fastest guy, but the guy that's been there 30, 40 years and just is doing it because he loves it. And he's the guy that knows how things work.
Very good advice. Now, if I could wave a magic wand and arrange for you to have a drink with anyone in the automotive industry or racing industry, living or deceased, who would that person be?
That's a tough one. There's two people that come to mind for me. Paul Newman is one. I respect him tremendously as a person and as a racer. I try to emulate him in my life. He's a great role model. And then the other one, which is a little intimidating to me, is actually Ayrton Senna. I was never a Senna fan before his death. But then the more I read about him after my accident, the more I read, and his quotes and his thinking and his mindset was what I used to recover from my TBI. And
really?
Yeah. His mindset he is a very, very deep person. And that's why I would say it'd be a little intimidating because, I like conversations like that, but I don't know if I'm that deep, a very, very deep person.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to sit down with him. He's one of my racing heroes. In fact, I even have one of his quotes that I keep on my business cards because, I just really admire the way he thought about things. So yeah, Ayrton Senna, that would be fantastic. Well, how about a book? Is there a book you've read you think our listeners would enjoy?
The book that has helped me the most, I am honestly going to say, is the Bible. There is so much confirmation, and it may be worded a little funny, but you can read different passages at different times in your life and get totally different meanings. They call it the Living Bible for a reason, because it speaks to you for what you're going through, whether it's TBI recovery or trying to win a race,
There you go. Nicely said. Or trying to win a race, or just the race of life in general.
Exactly.
So, very nice. Well, listeners, you can find links to all these resources that John has shared on his Cars Yeah show notes page. Just go to carsyeah.com, type in John Mills, and that page will pop right up. All right, John, we are up to the checkered flag, something else you've seen many times in your life. And this last question, well, it can be a bit of a doozy. Today, I'm going to buy you any cool collector car, vintage race car, old race car, whatever you want, something kind of fun, not a daily driver, something unique and different. But there's a couple rules to this game. You can't sell it to buy a bunch of other racing parts with. You got to keep it. You got to drive it. No garage queens. But money is no object today, John. So what can I buy you?
I would go for a 66 427 Cobra.
Oh,
that is the year I was born, and was my dream car for a long time growing up. I've had the opportunity to drive an exact 427 replica, an authentic replica, and they're a very brutish, it's an experience. But those are the kind of cars I like. I don't necessarily like being comfortable when I'm driving. I mean,
I was going to say,
you can at times, but that's like I have a 72 Chevy pickup that, that's going to be that I'm working on. I'm going to rat rod that. And that's going to be my daily driver here in a bit. So.
Wow. All right. I like you, John. What a great thing. Well, yeah, you picked kind of if I can find you a real one, a real 66 427 Cobra, that's going to be a little pricey. But you know what? I've got a good friend named Lance Stander who owns Superformance. And I think maybe I could have him build you something pretty darn special that
there you go.
Would bring a smile to your face. Yeah, absolutely. He and his team are giving some awesome rides, some drifting rides at SEMA. Oh my gosh, yeah, you better hold on. Those things have incredible power. Great group of people there at Superformance. Well, John, you've taken me on a great ride today. I've really enjoyed your stories. I want to thank you for sharing your journey. Could you offer us a little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you rip off into the sunset in that 66 427 Cobra?
A couple things, and from learning from my accident, never take life for granted. We don't know when God is going to call our name. If you love someone, tell them. If you admire someone, tell them. If somebody inspires you, tell them. These people may appear strong, but your words may be the reinforcement that they need to get them through what they're going through. End it with a quote from Ayrton Senna. He said, "We are made of emotions. We're all looking for emotions. It's only the quest of finding a way to experience them."
Nice.
And
very nice.
Connecting with car guys is where that comes from,
Yeah. Well said. Well said. What's the best way for our listeners to follow along with you and what you're doing these days?
Well, of course, I'm on Facebook, and I have 2 different websites. I have johnmillsracing.com, and then I have a TBI site dedicated to traumatic brain injury, johnmillstbi.com. And I'm going to keep those updated as far as my racing in the GT3 Challenge. But they have, I haven't blogged on there for a while. I did for actually probably 3 or 4 years after my accident. I blogged on there. Those are good places.
Awesome. Well, listeners, I'll make sure I put links to those on John's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. Just go to the website at carsyeah.com, type in John Mills. That page will pop up and you'll find johnmillsracing.com, johnmillstbi.com, and his Facebook page. And I think this is a guy you should follow along. Certainly an inspiration to all of us, John. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today, sharing your expertise, sharing your experiences with the listeners here at Cars Yeah. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
See you, Mark.
Thank you. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp., member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.